All right, so are you ready to dive deep into marketing budgets today?
Let's do it. We've got that article from Now Technology Systems.
Yeah. How to determine an effective marketing budget for your business. Sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but there's always more to it than meets the eye.
Exactly. So let's unpack it, figure out what those key takeaways are.
Absolutely. And what's even more important, I think, is figuring out how it applies to you, to your business, your specific goals.
Right, because what works for one business might not work for another.
Totally. Like one of the first things this article jumps into is the importance of even having a marketing budget.
Which, seems obvious, but...
It does, but you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I bet some people just kind of wing it.
Oh, all the time. And having a budget, a well-defined budget, it's not just about tracking the money.
It's more strategic than that.
Way more. It's like a roadmap for your marketing.
Okay, so it's less about bean counting and more about big picture thinking.
Exactly. It helps you prioritize what marketing activities are really going to make a difference.
And make sure you're spending money on those things.
Exactly. And that way you're not wasting resources on stuff that's not aligned with your goals.
Which brings us to, I guess, the big question. How much should you actually be spending?
Right. And the article throws out this classic, the 5 to 10% of revenue.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Oh, yeah. It's like the magic formula you see everywhere.
But is it really magic?
Well, it's more of a starting point.
Okay, so not a hard and fast rule.
Definitely not. Like a brand new business, they might need to invest way more than 10% to get off the ground.
Makes sense. But a company that's been around forever...
They might be fine with less.
So it really depends on where you are in your business journey.
Totally. And this is where it gets really interesting because, like the article says, you've got to tie your budget to your goals.
Oh, yeah, because not all goals are equal.
For sure. Are you trying to build brand awareness? Or is it more about getting leads? Or maybe you're all about driving sales right now.
And each of those requires a different strategy.
Totally. And a different budget.
Right, because it's like you wouldn't use the same tool for every job.
Exactly. And speaking of tools, one thing this article suggests is, and I think this is really cool, is looking at what your competitors are spending.
Ooh, like spying on the competition.
Kind of. It's called benchmarking, and it can give you some really valuable insights.
Like what?
Well, you can see, the average marketing spend for businesses like yours.
Oh, so you know if you're in the right ballpark.
Exactly. You can also spot trends in your industry.
So you can stay ahead of the game.
Exactly. Imagine knowing what your rivals are up to. And It's like having a secret weapon.
Okay, so how do you actually find this information? Where do you even look?
Well, there are a few places, industry associations. They often, do these surveys, and then they publish reports.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, on, marketing spend in their sector.
Sure. So you can see what everyone else is doing.
Exactly. You can also check out some market research firms.
Like who?
Like IBS World, Statista, those guys.
Okay, I've heard of those.
Yeah, they do in-depth industry analysis.
So they'd have that benchmarking data.
Exactly. And don't underestimate just talking to people.
Networking.
Yeah, other business owners in your industry.
Right. They might have some insights.
Oh, for sure. They might be willing to share what's working for them.
Yeah, good point. Now, one thing that really stood out to me in this article was the emphasis on being flexible.
Oh, yeah. Huge. Especially in a fast-paced market like Australia.
Yeah, because things change so quickly.
All the time, like the digital world. It's
Yeah.
constantly evolving.
New platforms, new trends, new everything.
Exactly. So you can't just set a budget and forget about it.
You got to be ready to adapt.
Absolutely. What worked last year might not work this year.
So you need to have some wiggle room in your budget.
Totally. You got to be able to jump on those new opportunities.
So it's not just about the numbers. It's about being strategic.
And adaptable.
And always kind of thinking ahead.
Absolutely. Which brings us to another big topic in the article. Traditional versus digital marketing.
The age-old debate.
Right. Is traditional marketing even relevant anymore?
Especially with everyone online these days.
Exactly. But here's the thing. It's not so black and white.
Okay, so it's not one versus the other.
No. In Australia, we've got this amazing digital infrastructure.
Now, online marketing is super effective.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But traditional methods, they still have their place.
I guess it depends on who you're trying to reach.
Exactly. Who's your target audience? If they're all on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, then digital is probably the way to go.
But if you're trying to reach like an older demographic,
They might be more into print ads or radio.
exactly. And this is where it gets interesting because the article mentioned like geographical location.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Like in some parts of Australia, digital adoption isn't as high.
So traditional marketing might still be king.
Exactly. It's all about knowing your audience and where they are.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of reaching your audience, the article also talks about the marketing funnel.
Oh, yeah. Classic marketing concept.
But I gotta be honest, I'm always a little fuzzy on how it actually works.
Okay, so think of it like this. It's the journey your customer takes. From first hearing about your brand all the way to actually buying something.
Okay, so it's a process.
Exactly. And each stage, it needs a different approach.
So like at the top of the funnel, you're just trying to get people's attention.
Exactly. That's the awareness stage.
Like with content marketing or social media ads.
Totally. Just getting your name out there.
And then what?
Well, then you move into engagement.
Okay, so now people know about you.
Right. So now you need to keep them interested.
How do you do that?
Like with valuable content or free trials or just by like interacting with them on social media.
Building that relationship.
Exactly. You're showing them why they should care about your brand.
Okay, so then what's the final stage?
Conversion. This is where you actually get them to buy.
Make that sale.
Exactly. So here you might use like targeted ads or special promotions.
So it's all about guiding them through that process.
Exactly. From awareness to engagement to conversion.
And I guess that's where your budget comes in.
Totally. You have to decide like how much to spend at each stage.
So if you're a new business, you might focus more on that top of funnel stuff.
Right. Because you need to build awareness.
But if you're already well known,
Then you might shift more resources to like driving sales.
I see. It's all connected.
It is. It's all about that big picture.
Okay, so we've talked about setting goals. We've talked about the marketing funnel. What else is there to consider?
Well, the article really stresses the importance of monitoring your budget.
Oh, right, because what looks good on paper,
Might not work in reality.
so you got to track your results.
Absolutely. And this is where those analytics tools come in.
The ones we talked about earlier.
Yeah. They're crucial for seeing what's actually working.
And what's not working.
Exactly. And then you can adjust your budget accordingly.
So you're constantly tweaking and refining.
Exactly. It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Now, for our listeners in Australia, the article also mentions some regulations.
Oh, yeah. Important stuff.
Can you give us a quick overview of what we need to be aware of?
Okay, so first up, we've got the Spam Act.
The what?
The Spam Act. It's from 2003.
Okay.
And it basically says you can't just spam people.
Like with emails and stuff.
Yeah, like you
Right.
need their consent before sending marketing messages.
So no more bombarding people with random offers.
Exactly. And you also have to make it easy for them to unsubscribe.
Makes sense.
And then we've got the Australian consumer law.
Okay, what's that all about?
It covers a whole bunch of stuff, but basically it's about being honest with your customers.
So no misleading advertising.
Exactly. Your marketing has to be truthful and accurate.
Because at the end of the day, it's about trust.
Totally. You got to build that relationship with your customers.
Make them feel confident about doing business with you.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's still more to discuss. What do you think? Ready for part 3?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're back, and I've been thinking about something.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Well, all this talk about regulations and stuff, it kind of made me realize that marketing is really all about relationships.
That's a really good point.
Like building trust with your customers.
Exactly.
Uh.
And being transparent.
And just like providing value.
Absolutely.
Which I guess brings us to the marketing plan.
Oh, yeah, the article mentions that too.
And I feel like it ties into the budget pretty closely.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, imagine you're going on a road trip.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
You wouldn't just like get in the car and start driving, right?
No way, I'd need a map.
Exactly. And you'd need to know where you're going.
And make sure I had enough gas to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your marketing plan, it's like your map.
And your budget is the gas.
Exactly. It's what keeps you moving forward.
Okay, so the plan helps you stay focused.
And on track. So you don't waste time and money going in the wrong direction.
Right, no more detours.
Exactly. And the article even suggests breaking down your budget into different categories.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because marketing is such a broad term.
It covers like everything.
Exactly. So it helps to break it down into smaller pieces.
So you might have like a category for website development.
Right. and one for content creation.
Social media advertising, events, all that stuff.
Exactly. That way you can see exactly where your money is going.
And make sure you're not overspending in one area.
Or underspending.
Right, because you might find out that, like, Facebook ads aren't working for you.
And then you can reallocate that money to something else.
Something that's actually getting results.
Exactly. It's all about making informed decisions.
Being data-driven.
Yes. Now, while we're talking about, like, getting the most out of your budget, the article also says it's important to have realistic expectations.
Oh, yeah, because marketing takes time.
It does. Like, you're not going to see results overnight.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. It takes time to build brand awareness, to gain people's trust.
So patience is key.
Absolutely. Just be consistent, keep putting in the work, and eventually you'll see those results.
Speaking of results, how do you actually measure your success?
Oh, good question. The article talks about return on investment.
ROI.
Yep. You need to track your key metrics.
Like, what are people doing on your website?
Exactly. Like, how much traffic are you getting? How many leads are you generating?
And are those leads actually turning into customers?
Exactly. You need to know if your marketing is actually working.
Because if you're not measuring it, you're basically just guessing.
Exactly. Data is your friend.
It tells you what's working and what's not.
And that helps you make better decisions about your budget.
Now, the article also mentions a couple of specific marketing strategies, like content marketing and social media marketing.
Oh, yeah. Good ones.
Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Sure. Content marketing is basically like creating valuable content that people actually want to read, watch, or listen to.
So like blog posts, videos, infographics, podcasts.
Exactly. And it's not about being salesy. It's about providing information, being helpful.
Building that relationship with your audience.
Exactly. And social media marketing is all about, well, using social media to connect with your audience.
Like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that.
Yeah, it's about building a community around your brand.
And the good thing is both of those strategies can be pretty cost-effective.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You don't need a huge budget to do them well.
It's more about being creative.
And strategic.
And knowing your audience.
Absolutely. And, that brings me to something that the article kind of touches on but doesn't really dive into.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
I think one of the most important things in marketing is creativity.
Ah, the secret ingredient.
It really is. Because you can have all the data in the world, but if your marketing isn't creative, it's not going to stand out.
Right. It's got to grab people's attention.
Exactly. It's got to be memorable. It's got to be engaging. It's got to make people feel something.
So it's not just about numbers.
It's about connecting with people on an emotional level.
Through storytelling, through humor, through beautiful visuals.
Exactly. And the best part is, creativity doesn't have to be expensive.
Some of the most creative campaigns are super simple.
Totally. It's all about thinking outside the box.
This has been such a great conversation.
I agree.
We've covered so much ground.
Yeah, we talked about goals, budgets, strategies, data. We even touched on Australian regulations.
It's been a wild ride, but I feel like our listeners are really going to benefit from all these insights.
I hope so. And remember, marketing is a journey.
It's always evolving.
So be adaptable, be creative, and most importantly, have fun with it.
That's great advice. And if you want to keep learning more about marketing, you know where to find us. Happy marketing.